Welcome. I'm Rabbi Phil Bressler of Beit Am in Corvallis, Oregon, and this is the daily summary video for the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch Yomi Daily Halacha Learning Project, covering the passage from Siman 110 Seif 6 to Siman 110 Seif 12. You can find links to the Hebrew and English text of this passage and to the calendar of upcoming passages in this video's description. So we continue our discussion today of the preparation of the matzah, specifically matzat mitzvah, the matzah that we eat at the Passover Seder when there's a specific mitzvah to do so. And we continue with the making and baking process. So during kneading, it's important to watch out for cracks in your kneading vessels, places where the dough can get in there and hide and become chametz. And also make sure throughout this whole process, as we've said, keep the dough as cool as possible. The target amount of time to prepare the matzah and get it into the oven is 18 minutes, as we've said before. So every 18 minutes, all hands, all tools, that includes the boards, the rolling pins, the perforating tool, everything gets washed fully every 18 minutes. There's a special role for a mashgiach in this process, I think, a supervisor. There's really just so much going on, I have to imagine, with baking these matzot, that it's really important to have someone in charge of all of these protocols as well to make sure they're followed. It's important that we don't let stuff fall into the dough. Anything that's harif, sharp flavors, can make the dough, the Kitzur uses the word, make it hot. It can warm it up, just like you make food hot with spicy flavors. Not literally heats, but still, halachically, that can make it, the dough warm and let it become chametz. If something like a piece of grain of wheat falls in, it may be possible to salvage it in part. You just remove the area that wheat touched up to a finger's thickness. It's important that the dough be worked constantly, that there be no stoppages. The dough should be constantly moving throughout the kneading and preparation process. Everyone involved works fast and watches out for pieces that stick to them or to their tools. The key is to make it fast. Don't make it pretty. You don't shape the matzah in any special shape. You just make it fast and get it into the oven fast. And don't hold it for too long in front of the oven. Obviously, the heat coming off of that could warm it up and make it chametz before it gets in there, right? There's a really interesting line I found in the Kitzur where it says that the person who's making the handoff of the dough to the baker should be a Baal Torah v'yireh Shamayim. That is a Torah scholar and someone who is literally fears God, fears heaven. And I was curious about why, and thinking about it, I think there's an interesting dynamic at play here. On the one hand, we're imitating the fleeing Israelites, right? And we're going fast, 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 just the way they did when they had the opportunity to leave Egypt. As it says in Shemot, Exodus chapter 12, verse 34, the people took their dough, terem yechmatz, right, before it became leaven, literally before it became chametz. But on the other hand, we're actually taking great care with this whole process. The Israelites themselves weren't actually doing that. They weren't trying to make totally unleavened bread. They were legitimately in a hurry. So there's a really fine line to walk here, and I think that's where the role of the mashgiach comes in. As the saying goes, the closest thing to chametz on Passover is matzah itself, because there's such a fine line where what could otherwise be kosher matzah could slip over and become chametz very, very easily. It's important to make sure that your oven is really hot. It's important to be scrupulous and take charge of your own matzah baking, as the Kitzur says. Don't rely on the person before you. Maybe they're not as scrupulous as you are. And finally, while the matzot are in the oven, make sure that they're separated in there and not folded over at all, so that everything cooks quickly and evenly. That's all for today. As always, our learning is dedicated to Rabbi Shlomo Gansfried, the author of the Kitzur, and the historic Jewish community of Uzhhorod, Ukraine. See you tomorrow.